Okay, Mr. Chairman, we're recording.
We're ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I'd like to call to order tonight's meeting of the Gardner Zoning Board of Appeals. Today is January 19th and it's about 6:02. Before we begin tonight's hearing, I'd like to go over several of the ground rules by which this board operates. In Gardner. Well, first of all, I'm going to start with a statement from Governor Baker. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws 30A, paragraph 20, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place in this meeting of the Gardner Zoning Board of Appeals will be conducted via remote participation on the city's YouTube channel, Connect. I do want to state at this point, it will not be on YouTube currently live because the city council is having a meeting this evening and that takes precedence over this board. And it will be connected to YouTube possibly tomorrow for viewing. Okay, the audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings will be posted on the city's website as soon as possible, as I stated. Since this meeting is being conducted via Zoom, all votes taken will be roll call, and all participants are asked to raise their hands to be recognized. We do have several people on the telephone. You'll have to let either Mr. Jean or myself know and identify yourself so we can continue the conversation. In Gardner, 3 members of the Zoning Board of Appeals must be present to conduct a legal hearing. All applications will normally be heard in the sequence in which they appear in the public notice. The board is under no obligation to adhere to that sequence. All hearings shall be open to the public and no person shall be excluded unless he or she is considered to be a hindrance to the workings of the board. An applicant may appear in his or her own behalf or be represented by agent or attorney. The applicant or his or her representative shall present the case to the board. Representatives of the city shall be heard. The abutters to the property resident shall be heard. Those in opposition to the application shall be heard. And due to the meeting being held remotely, we ask that questions be held until prompted. And should you have a question, please raise your hand to the screen. Phone-in attendees will be periodically asked if they have any questions. At certain times, we may mute your mic so as to clearly understand and hear who is speaking. We ask for your patience when questions arise so we may respond accordingly. The board must render its decision regarding variance requests within 100 days after the application was duly filed in the office of the city clerk. The board, regarding special permits, must conduct a public hearing within 65 days after the application was duly filed in the office of the city clerk. The board must render its decision regarding special permits within 90 days after the closing of the public hearing. All 3 members of the board must vote in favor of the variance or special permit for it to be granted and approved. The right to appeal the decision of the board is provided for in the Zoning Act. More information can be found online under Chapter 40A, Section 17 of the Mass General Laws. No variance or special permit or any extension, modification, or renewal thereof shall take effect until notification from the city clerk that 20 days have elapsed after the decision has been filed in that office and no appeals have been filed and is recorded in the registry of deeds for the county and or district. The burden of supporting the need for the variance or special permit rests with the applicant or representative of the applicant. The board requests that each person identify himself or herself as to name and address before addressing the board. Sitting on tonight's hearing, well, it's going to be split because we have people on different, but those participating will identify who the members are if we're changing. There will be Michael Gehring, clerk, Mel Cornett, third member, and myself, Ray LaFawn, as chair. On certain ones, Randall Hagelin will sit in for the third member. The meeting will be recorded and live streamed on YouTube, but not available for viewing until tomorrow. Does anyone object to this? If there is, now, if it's somebody that we can see, if you put your hand up, we can note the objection. If you're on the phone and you have an objection, please state "I object" and state your name. So I do not see any objections, so I think we'll proceed at this point. And there will be a couple of changes taking place on the agenda as we go forward. And I'm going to so move the meeting right along. And this is the first case that the board is going to look at is that of Kelly Vermette, who is looking to obtain the use variance for 5 Foss Road to convert the former raised Peter Pan and et cetera, the building to a floral shop. Today, we received from Kelly Vermette a letter that states, "Hi, Rachel, this is to our administrative assistant. I am no longer in need of going forward with the board. I have lost the building at this point due to the delays and extra money I would have to come up with for drainage pipes in the upwards of $2,000 or more per drain. I'm sad to have to give up on this dream, but it's not happening anymore. I've lost $2,000 plus the fee for this meeting with the board and fees to the owner of the property because it went past the month of December. And to go forward would have been a huge risk with no guarantees on time to keep the deal in place or turning the building to a commercial status when everyone was looking for a quick turn to commercial, since it has always been that way. Thank you so much for everything. I appreciate you rushing everything for me. And maybe in the future, I will find another place, maybe Gardner, but it is not looking promising to stay here and find something worth the stress, efforts, and money to fix to get to code or turn commercial. Truthfully, I think that's why we can't keep good shops here in town, because we can't get the help we need. This building will end up being bulldozed soon because it will never be allowed to sell and be used, and that's sad. There will be nothing left for the next generation. You may read this at the meeting and or forward to the mayor, etc. And I'm sorry to tell all of the customers and neighbors of Foss Road that really love my vision and were hoping for me to be there. And I'm sorry to let you down, and I'm so disappointed too. Sincerely, Kelly Vermette. So I will ask at this time if my board members have any questions regarding this letter.
No, I'm good.
I'm all
Okay,
set.
Mr. Cornett, Mr. Gary, you're good. Do I hear a motion to move forward to approve the withdrawal request of Kelly Vermette?
So moved.
Okay, Mel, so
Second,
Mike? Okay,
second,
thank you. All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approved application of Kelly Vermette withdrawn. Okay, the next case I have, let's see, looks like Mr. Knoll. And Mr. Knoll is represented, I believe, by Attorney LeBlanc. And this is for Betty Spring Road that is looking for a second driver finding for putting in a second driver access on that property. And without going through a lot of the excess reading, I know Mr. LeBlanc is here. And so, Mr. LeBlanc, may I open it up to you to provide an update? He may be muted, Roland. Roland? What the heck? Rachel?
Maybe Mr. Neal and Mr. Neal wants to, or
I think
he has
they're
to
all
put his
muted.
microphone on.
They're all
He has
muted.
to unmute himself.
Okay, can you?
Yeah, your microphone is muted, Mr. LeBlanc.
I see, I have Dave Nolan. Still muted. No, I've lost everybody.
No, you
I'm
haven't.
here. I'm here.
Hello,
Okay.
Mr.
And
Chairman.
You're Mr., is it Nealon?
LeBlanc,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Came up Nealon,
Mr. Chairman,
yes?
can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm Mr. LeBlanc. The name is incorrect because I'm using somebody else's computer this evening.
Okay,
So I apologize for that.
yeah.
May I
Mr.
proceed?
Blank, yeah, I just asked you to bring us current because I know there's been a lot going on.
Yes.
And if you could please bring us current.
So I believe this is the fourth hearing we've had, a continued hearing we've had. At some point, the board wished to have a view of the property in November of 2020. I believe the board did take a view on a Saturday to see the approximate location of the driveway and the right-of-way, and also to take a look at the barn or the shed, the building that was there, as well as the proposed parking area, which would be located on the rear parcel. Subsequent to that, at the prior meeting, it was my understanding that there was a request made to have the law department and city solicitor Flick provide an opinion letter, which he did do. I believe we all received it on the date of the previous scheduled hearing. And at that point, we asked that the board continue the matter to this evening for the opportunity of everyone to review that opinion letter. I have reviewed the opinion letter dated December 15th, and I can report to the board a few matters. One of which is that the opinion letter asked that I provide, if possible, a certificate of title to establish the date of the right-of-way. I would refer to my original application package, Mr. Chairman, at which time I provided a letter report from a title company, Worcester County Abstract Company, and that company chose to inform the board and myself that the right-of-way was created by way of a deed from Carl E. Gilbert to Susan Vanetta, dated July 27th of 1983. I did confirm this with the title company. They indicated to me that there was no additional information they could provide other than the deed that I had provided in my package from Carl Gilbert to Susan Vanetta, and that was in my original package. So for the board, I can explain that the right-of-way was created by Carl Gilbert by way of the deed in July of 1983. It did not predate the original zoning ordinance, as the question was raised by City Solicitor Flick. I would report also to the board that I had the opportunity to review the city solicitor's comprehensive analysis of this parcel and of the issue in question. And I would point out that with regard to page 2, paragraph 3, which begins on page 1, continues on to page 2, Mr. Attorney Flick did reference what I had referenced in one of my original summaries to the board and my supplemental summary to the board. And that is that the reason I'm requesting the finding is for the board to take a look at the circumstances, unusual circumstances associated with this particular matter. In that, as Attorney Flick indicates in first paragraph of page 2 of his opinion, we are asking that the board consider the establishment of a driveway over the deeded right-of-way. And it's for, again, the sole purpose of access, as an access driveway to the parcel to the rear, which is owned by my clients, the Knowles. As Mr. Flick pointed out in his report or his opinion letter to the board, if this is the sole purpose for it, and if it is used for that purpose, his opinion was that it did not create a zoning violation. However, if it was used for a dual purpose, one of which was access to the Knoll parcel to the rear, and also access to the Keown parcel on 550 Betty Spring Road, the second part of that would constitute a violation. And that second part would be to use the driveway for the purposes of the Keowns who own the single-family residence on the property. And the sole purpose for the request and the finding to the board was just to use the access driveway over the right-of-way for the purpose of access to the rear parcel, which I believe some board members had an opportunity to view and to view the reason for the request for the use of the driveway. So I don't know how the board could address this, but I believe that we certainly do not intend to use that driveway for the 550 Betty Spring Road property at all. We intend to use it solely for the rear parcel.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Mr. LeBlanc. Anything else you'd like to add right now?
I don't have anything else right now. I certainly would respond to whatever the board's request might be, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm going to address to my members. Mr. Hagelin, you sat on this case.
Yes.
Okay, do you have any questions of Attorney LeBlanc at this point?
Not at this time. I don't recall seeing Attorney Flick's letter, so I just had Rachel send it to me, so I just was going through it.
Okay, Mr. Gary?
No questions at this point.
Okay. I think, Mr. LeBlanc, you've presented some information here. Seeing we're just getting some of this right now again. I'll maybe ask a question. Would you be open to summarizing what you presented to us again and get a copy to Mr. Flick? So we can review it, because we were waiting for any other additional documents and then meet with him to review the documentation, so we have a clear understanding.
I could do that.
Okay. With that being said, I see no reason to continue this case. I'd like to close this case. If you get that documentation to Mr. Flick, we will meet with him and establish a decision meeting so we can render a decision on this case.
I will do that.
Okay, thank you. Board members, Randy and Mike, are you in concurrence with that?
I'm fine with that, yes.
Yeah, as am I, so I'll make the motion that we close the public hearing for the finding.
Okay. You second, Michael?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing the case for the finding on a Knoll, 550 Betty Spring Road, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed? Meeting closed. We'll look forward to that documentation.
Opposed.
Who was that?
This is Edward Cohen. I own the land on 550 Betty Spring Road.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Excuse me,
I,
you cannot oppose. The only opposition would be from any of my members, which I call for a vote, and the meeting has been officially closed. And then the board will move forward for a decision meeting in the very near future upon receipt of additional information from Mr. LeBlanc.
so we're gonna have another meeting next month?
No, sir. There will be a decision meeting sometime within the next.
So we don't get to say anything? I mean, half the stuff we said isn't even true. I mean, there's a right of way there, but it's a right of way for the house, not the back land. That'll give him 3 driveways to one house. The right of way is for the land, the house, not the land in the back. He already cut down 40 feet of trees on my land. Hello?
Yes.
He's already cut down 40 feet by 150 feet of trees on my.
Okay. There was an opportunity last month for people to speak for and against that was minimal at that point in time. And so we just continue looking for some additional information from Mr. LeBlanc, which he is going to provide. So the meeting has been closed, sir. And the board will render a decision. If anyone is in opposition to the decision, they have the right to appeal. And that's what I can really say to you at this point. There is under the laws which I read, and you can appeal, get the information and move forward with an appeal. And if nobody is in opposition, then 20 days will elapse after the written decision is filed and it will go forward. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next case. And the next case we have is Janine Pommier.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be standing off on this case. I won't
You'll be
won't be
going
hearing
on,
it.
and Mr. Cornett will
Yep.
be coming on. So this case will be Mel Cornett, Mike Gary, and myself, Ray LaFawn. And the case for Pommier is for the maintenance of chickens on Marquette Street. And I believe we closed this case last month. Am I correct, Rachel? We closed the public hearing?
Yes, we did close the public hearing. This is a decision.
Thank you. So what we have, gentlemen, before us is the opportunity to render a decision on this one if we want at this point, or hold it to the decision meeting, which will be coming in the near future. I'll ask your opinion. Mr. Gary?
I'm okay to go ahead right now.
Okay. Mr. Cornett?
I am also.
You are? Okay. Do I hear a motion to move on the application of Janine? Okay,
Yeah, so moved.
Second,
okay, further discussion. I think we should bring up that we did a site visit several weeks ago. Mr. Pommier showed us his pen, which is really sort of his garage. And we'll call it the chicken run, which is outside the garage, which was totally unfenced. I believe, Mr. Pommier, you have approximately 8 chickens?
I have 12, sir.
12, okay.
12.
Looking at dimensional requirements, not requirements, but recommended, they look at approximately 4 square feet per chicken. Whether for the coop, the garage provides much more than the 48 square feet, and it has more than adequate, call it the chicken run outside, that's all fenced in, it's a whole side yard. So it meets the standard, and that's what we're looking at going forward. A prior case that the individual had in excess of 12 chickens, and that's sort of what the board has been working for with an unofficial amount is 12 chickens. And the Pommiers meet that. They have adequate facilities, watering. The pen is clean. It was a little dirty that time, but it had been flooded because of
You
the.
came on a bad visit day, as you could see.
Our timing was perfect, right after the major rainstorm.
Yeah, and icing, and it looks much cleaner now, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, so those are my comments, and I would think if the board is looking favorably to do this, is to allow them to maintain their chickens, but not to exceed 12 chickens at this point.
I would add no roosters.
Oh, definitely. Thank you, Mike. No roosters.
No roosters.
Excuse me?
No roosters.
That's correct. Okay, any other comments or recommendations or conditions?
No,
No?
I
Okay,
think
then.
you covered them all.
Okay, then all those in favor of granting the special permit to Janine Pommier for the maintenance of chickens, but not to exceed 12 with no roosters, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay, all opposed? No opposition, unanimous decision. The special permit is granted.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mrs. Pommier, I'll just inform you that, a decision will be written. We have 14.
Okay, that's it.
We have 14 days to write it.
Can you hear me?
And once we write it, you will receive a stamped copy, time stamped. Then there's a 20-day wait period to see if anybody is going to appeal or to file an appeal. And once that time period is up, if an appeal has been filed, it'd be notified. And you'll also be notified if no one's filed an appeal. And at that point, you will have to take the special permit and go to the registry of deeds and have it recorded on your deed for the property. Okay?
Okay, I understand.
All right, if you have any questions, you can always call into the office.
Okay.
Okay, the next case,
Hello, did you put me on mute?
Yes.
I ask who is
Oh, there
speaking.
you are.
I'm sorry, sir. I have Warren on the line. Do you have something to add, Warren?
No, I didn't hear anything since they said that the permit was approved.
Yes, permit was approved and we'll be getting notification in the mail.
Are we all set, Mrs. Pommier?
Yes, I'm all set. I had Warren on the line. He said, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you all.
okay. Okay, the next case before the board I have is Andrea Bartlett. And just give me a minute so I can get to the lead sheet.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, who is? Yes, Roland.
we've had another phone-in caller, and I'd like to get the name, please, if we could.
Okay. Do we have a phone-in caller? Please state your name.
The last four are 1051.
Wow. We do have a phone-in caller. Last four digits of your number is 1051. Please identify yourself.
Looks like Miss Bartlett wants to say something, but she's muted.
Okay, if they're muted, please take the muting off and converse with us, please.
I believe that's Ted Cushing. But he's muted. Can you hear me?
I
I
can
can
barely
hear
hear.
you, yes. Can,
I believe that's Ted Cushing's phone number.
Okay,
is there a
All
way to
right.
get him to talk to us?
He'll need to press *6 on his phone to unmute himself.
okay.
Hi, can you hear me now? Sorry, I'm not used to this. This is Ted Cushing.
Mr. Cushing, we can hear you clearly now.
Oh, okay, great. I'm just here to be here.
Okay. I'm just.
I have nothing right now to say except more than what I said before. So if you have a question, let me know.
Okay, we're just starting to call the case so you can sit and listen, and if you
Sure.
choose to supply any information when it's appropriate, then you may.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is the application to raise poultry at 73 Prospect Street, located in a R12 parcel ID, I'm sorry, R12-9-18 in a single-family residential 1 district that does not comply with 675-410 of the City Code of Gardner. And it states that your use requested agricultural use non-exempt. Number 12 requires a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Okay, excuse me. Ms. Bartlett, I'm going to ask, because you submitted some additional information today, and this being a public hearing, we can allow it to come in. Would you like to just sort of summarize the information that you submitted today? Andrea, I believe you're muted.
I don't, did I print it? I submitted information about the size of our run and coop. We did build a greenhouse addition to the coop itself. A greenhouse is considered, as long as it's predator proofed, which it is, it's considered an acceptable form of housing for chickens. So with the greenhouse addition, it increases their indoor space to 121 square feet. I'm trying to remember the dimensions of the run. The dimension of the run is nearly 400 square feet without the other addition of the blackberry patch, which the board members saw when they came out for the site visit. And that, I believe, is another 288 square feet.
Okay.
Is that going to be underneath a roof? Or is that just a pinned-in area?
Which part?
The blueberry, the one with the blueberry bushes.
The blackberry patch will have the run itself, as I stated in that letter, and it can be seen in the photos that I sent. It has chicken run netting that's supposed to protect them from hawks. That is over the main run, and it will also go over the blackberries. But since the blackberries will need the rain, it won't have a solid color. I may replace the hawk netting with wire in the future, but for the presence of hawks or the possibility of hawks, the netting will protect them.
Okay.
I did send another letter that addressed concerns and statements made by others about predators and things of that nature.
I will read that letter into the file. Mr. Cornett, any other questions at this point?
No, I'm just wondering, what did you call it, a green room? The room they're adding, is that a fully enclosed addition?
It's a greenhouse. It has greenhouse covering on it. It also has wire, like you would put on anything to keep anything out. So it has the wire, and then it also has the greenhouse covering.
Okay. I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gary, any questions at this point?
Not right now.
Okay, and since this is a continued meeting, there's been some additional information supplied. I'm going to go through the protocol very quickly, and then I'll read the letters that were submitted at this point. So are there any representatives of the city to speak regarding this application at this time? Any representatives of the city to speak regarding this application? No representatives to speak. Any abutters who would like to speak in favor of this application? Any abutters who would like to speak in favor of this application? This is your opportunity, Mr. Cushing.
Okay, yes, I restate my approval of having the chickens there. We have found no problem, and she's done a lot of work there in the back to improve. So I'm in approval.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional abutters who would like to speak in favor of? Are there any abutters who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Any abutters who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Any interested parties who would like to speak, I'll say either for or against this application? Any interested parties who would like to speak for or against this application? Okay, if not, first of all, any of my board members, Mr. Gary and Mr. Cornett, do you have any questions right now before I read the letters that were submitted?
Not now.
Okay. First letter I have is dated January 12th, 2021, received January 19th, 2021, to the zoning board. Though I was going by what the manufacturer of our coop had told us about its capacity, we wanted our girls to have more floor space. I told one of the gentlemen that came out for the site visit that we already had supplies to build a greenhouse in addition to our coop. A predator-proof greenhouse or hoop house is perfectly acceptable as a chicken coop and are used as such by many. We have built the predator-proofed addition The interior dimensions are 8.75 feet by 8.25 feet, increasing the interior space by 72 square feet for a total of 121 square feet of indoor space. The current outdoor run is 394 square feet and has been covered with chicken run hawk protection netting. During the site visit, I pointed out the blackberry patch adjacent to the run, which will also be fenced in and covered with netting for the chickens to roam in. At a minimum, this enclosure will be 16 feet by 18 feet, adding at least 288 square feet to their outdoor run for a total of plus or minus 682 square feet. We eat a lot of eggs. Deviled eggs are the favorite of my older son in particular. They are one of his favorite snacks, breakfast, lunches, and appetizers. My other children enjoy them very much, as well as omelets, quiche, custard, and much more. Then there is, of course, baking and other cooking that require eggs. My children intend to have children, and yes, the plan is that they will continue to live here. My mother and sister, who lives with her, also depend on eggs from our chickens, as neither of them is physically able to take care of chickens of their own. As I stated before, there are no other local families that come to us for eggs. Many sources state that appropriate indoor space for chickens is 2 to 3 square feet per chicken. Most sources say that the more outdoor space they have, the less indoor space they need. The maximum amount of outdoor space that I have found recommended anywhere is 8 to 10 square feet per chicken, but many sources state less than that. It has been stated that a chicken can lay 2 eggs per day. According to my research, this is actually very rare and usually happens if the birds are very young and still maturing or are overfed. The best laying hens are said to lay 5 eggs per week. Good layers are those that are expected to lay 4 per week during their peak laying years. This can vary by the individual bird as well. A chicken lays these amounts during the first 2 years, then it begins to taper off. Because our girls are as much pets as they are there for egg production, when they no longer lay, they live out their golden years as the matriarchs of the flock. Our flock does and will have chickens of a range of ages. Considering the size of our growing family and our egg consumption, we have asked that we be allowed no more than 40 chickens. We have ample space set aside for them and could give them more if we decided to. Considering the numbers set out above, we could accommodate quite a few more than 40 chickens, but for their comfort and ease of caring for them, we have no desire to max out that space that they have. Please see photos. Thank you, Andrea Bartlett. Ms. Bartlett did submit some photos of the new construction, etc. And you have received it, I'm sure, in your packet. Okay, the next letter, dated January 11th, 2021, received January 19th, 2021, Andrea Bartlett, 73 Prospect Street, Gardner, Mass, to the zoning board. I am writing this letter to try to clear up misinformation and incorrect supposition. Ms. DeZolia and her family have made the assertion that there are predators due to my family's chickens. This is patently untrue. I have lived here for 23 years, and there have always been coyotes. They have always been coyotes. They have run the railroad tracks near here since before I moved in. I have always been able to hear them at night. They have also been foxes. As to the neighbor's assertion that there has been an increase or an uptick in the fox population in the past couple of years, she is correct. Last year and the year before, there was a huge explosion in the wild bunny population. I don't know if all Gardner experienced this or it was unique to South Gardner. Whenever you have a huge increase in prey animal population, such as bunnies, an increase in predator population is sure to follow. Not surprisingly, there was a corresponding increase in fox sighting after the bumper crop of bunnies came in. As I stated in the first meeting, no fox has ever got into our run or coop, and I have not seen any fox in our yard. I have seen them in the neighbor's yard and running across the street. Predators do not speculate as to where food might exist. Their numbers increase only when readily available prey increases. Chickens, cats, small dogs, or any other domestic animal kept behind locked doors or fences do not constitute readily available prey. I will circle back to bears later. Ms. DeZolier and her family have also asserted that our chickens are noisy, so they can't carry on a conversation. Chickens are just simply not that noisy. All of our chickens combined make far less noise than an average dog. They have also asserted that the smell is terrible. As to what they believe they are smelling, I do not know what it is, as I have taken great pains to make sure they do not smell. Even more so in the past year or two, I have learned more ways to do this. I think it is very possible that what they are smelling is not our chickens, but cow manure. Considering the lack of any kind of basic knowledge of chickens that I am seeing, it's quite likely that they can't differentiate between the different scents. We have several neighbors who, it seems, use copious amounts of manure each year, and in the spring and well into the growing season. There is one neighbor in particular who, judging by the strength and tenacity of the bouquet, it lasts well for over a week. I believe they must have their manure delivered in bulk. I can only imagine how beautiful their gardens must be. I don't mind my neighbors using the natural fertilizer, as it is their right and environmentally sound. I do strongly dislike the smell of marijuana being smoked, but it is again my neighbor's business. For all I know, it is for medical reasons. There are things that must be expected when you have no neighbors. Ms. DeZolier alleges that she and others have rodent populations due to our chickens. This is also patently untrue. We do not have a rodent population. Our chickens are exclusively fed inside the coop, and the feed is stored in the feed room. We have never had rodents in our chicken yard. Please understand that I'm not saying the following because I want to cause a problem for Ms. DeZolier. I do not wish to cast aspersions against her or her property. I believe very strongly that everyone has a right to use their property as they see fit, as long as they are not hurting anyone. I believe this to be especially true in this country. I must, however, in light of her many accusations, bring a few things to light. Ms. Parent states that the rodents are always looking for additional sources of warmth, food, and water. She's correct about that. However, she states these things are supplied abundantly by backyard chickens. As I have stated, this is not the case in this instance. Ms. DeZolier has two garages that are in severe states of disrepair. The roofs are rotting, as is the outer cladding on one of them. They have put tarps on the roof. The garage that is rotting is clad in OSB board. Some of it is painted. The rest is bare OSB board. There are numerous holes rotted through the bottom of this building. One of the holes is large enough for a raccoon to enter through. A board has even fallen through to the outside of the building from the inside. The other garage is a form of stucco, but there is a hole in the back wall of the foundation that a 4x4 is sticking out through, and not by design. We have seen squirrels go into where the tops wrap around the end of the roof on the building. While working behind my garage, we saw a field mouse run up 4x4, stop, sit for a moment, then run along into the garage through the hole in the foundation. Ms. DeZolier has multiple bird feeders, including for turkeys, which she has every right to have, but they are a huge draw for rodents. She also puts out bread for either birds or squirrels, another draw. Another neighbor and I have seen her come out of the house with a small plastic bag, go to her fence, and dump the contents over the fence. It was still on her property, and the overgrowth in that part of her yard was too thick for us to see exactly what it was. For now, Ms. DeZolier has been throwing unwanted fruits and vegetables on the ground behind her hedges. We have seen ample evidence that they are being enjoyed by rodents. She also throws these fruits and vegetables at the top of or down the embankment into the wooded area adjacent to her yard. This abundant and constant food source, coupled with ample and easily accessed shelter of her garages, is a haven for rodents. As I stated at the outset, it is her property and she has the right to maintain it or not maintain it as she sees fit. Whether she doesn't want to or is unable to repair the garages at this time, and what she does with unwanted food is her business. However, I believe these are the reasons she is having a problem with rodents. If our chickens were the cause, we would have a rodent problem. And we don't. Certainly, at least, they would be in our feed room, and they are not. Circling to the bears have been an occasional occurrence in this area since before we lived here. Bears are omnivores and will be drawn by a great many things, the least of which is our chickens. Trash barrels, which everyone has, and bird feeders, for instance, are their favorites. Last year, the town of Westminster told residents not to put out bird feeders, and if they were already out, to bring them in because of bears. I have a friend who has put out her bird feeders way up under the eaves of her home because the bears would take the whole feeder, yet they have never gone after her chickens. A bear would also be drawn to the piles of fruit and vegetables Ms. DeSolia puts on the ground. Attempting to blame the fact that predators or any other wildlife exists in this area on chickens, specifically ours, is perpetrating misinformation and unfounded fear. We live in an area where there is a diverse wildlife population. We have many birds, including very healthy turkey population, bunnies, and so much more. I even had a deer in my yard. It simply stands to reason that there are predators as well. We share this with the planet and it needs to be accepted. Thank you. Andrea Bartlett. May I ask who is speaking? And I ask to refrain so we can continue with the people that are speaking and everybody can hear. Thank you. And the last one I have is a letter from Paul Oliveira, 33 Packard Hill Road, Ashburnham, Mass. To whom it may concern, Andrea Bartlett has been a close personal friend of mine for many years. I can attest to her strong moral character. She is a fine person and goes out of her way not to cause trouble of any sort. She tries very hard to lead a peaceful life and be a good neighbor. When it comes to keeping chickens, the care she gives them is far above than just adequate. As someone who keeps chickens myself, I can honestly say that Andrea has a keen understanding of what her hens need to live a very comfortable life. Any smell that is something attributed to the raising of chickens is kept to an absolute minimum in and around her coop. Hens are not inherently loud and are certainly no louder than the blue jays and crows that frequent our area. With respect and sincerity, Paul Oliveira, 12/29/20. Those are the documents that were submitted. Recently, there are some additional pictures that were submitted, but they're not pertinent to this case. So they will not be entered and they will not be part of the file. So I'm going to ask Mr. Cornett. Mr. Gary, do you have any comments or questions at this point?
My one question is, are you still currently thinking about having upwards of 40 plus chickens?
Upwards of 40? No, we would never have more than that.
Is there a problem keeping them at a lower rate, around 30 or less, given the amount of square foot you currently have?
Maybe 36?
Well, I think I don't want to get into a debate on the number of chickens right at this point. What I'd like to suggest is, because Ms. Bartlett has made some significant changes to her coop and run, we have done a site visit. I would like to do another site visit, possibly this Saturday, if we can. I'd like to see the improvements that have been made. I do have one question for you, Ms. Bartlett. On the additions that you put in or added to the existing coop, which brought it to, I quoted your number, but does that include the dry area where your food is?
No,
Okay, so that number that you gave as a coop is net of the dry area for your feed or your grain. So the coop is larger if you add it in.
if I were to add that in, yes, it would be larger.
Okay, and that's what I would like to see. Would it be possible for the board to come out this Saturday to view the additions? It is?
Yes,
Okay. Members, would you be okay to do that and view
Yes.
this site? What would 9 o'clock be good?
are you asking me?
Meet at 9 o'clock at your location on Prospect Street?
Okay,
Mel, Mike?
I may not be able to be available on Saturday. I have another event that I may have to attend. If I can make it at 9 on Saturday, I'll certainly give it a try.
Okay. If Mel and I can make it, you can always call us and we can chat with you.
Yep, that'll be fine.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask if there's anyone that has any additional comments. This is not normal, but I want to open up because, there's a lot of discussion on this one. If there are any additional comments, and I'm going to say for the application of Andrea Bartlett at this point in time. I do not have any requests on that. I do not see any requests by a hand.
Yeah, there's a hand up.
There you
Mr.
are.
Chairman.
Okay, and please identify yourself and name and address before speaking.
Okay, my name is Janine Bartlett. I am Andrea's mother, and I live in Westminster, Mass. And when she goes away, Deborah, my other daughter, and I take care of the chickens as far as feeding them and going over and locking the doors and stuff on them at night. We've been over there in the letters, some of them that say they smell and all, they don't smell. She puts down special stuff for them. And also everything is taken care of. She's loved animals since she was a little girl. And she takes such beautiful care of all her animals. And I can vouch for that. And just like Paul O'Vera said, she loves people, babies and everything. So like I say, if anybody gives her a hard trouble, she'll walk away. She won't get into a conversation and argue with them. That's the way she is. And her children love the animals. So that's one other reason why she has them.
Okay, thank you very much. This lady, you would like to speak also? And your name and address, please?
My name is Debbie Natacchione and I live in the same address in Westminster.
Okay,
I'm the sister of Andrea, and the chickens are very well behaved and quiet, and they love Andrea.
okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, any other comments, Mike, Mel?
No, I have none.
Well, I'm fine.
Okay, I would like to actually entertain a motion to close this portion of the hearing, close the public hearing on Andrea's application.
Could I say something?
Mr. Chairman, there's another hand up.
And may I ask who you are?
Steve DeBarros. I live at 69 Prospect Street. I'm right next door to Andrea Bartlett.
Yes, sir.
And I've lived here for about 5 years, and I've never smelled her chickens, ever.
Well, that's a great statement to make. 5 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, and I've never smelled her chickens. I've never seen one. I've never heard them. I didn't realize she had chickens until I introduced myself to her just a couple of years ago. But
Okay.
I've never had a problem with Andrea or her chickens.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barris. Thank you very much for your comment.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments at this point? Okay, I would like to move this to close the public hearing on this application, that we will go out and have a site visit this Saturday. And then it will also be part of the decision meeting that will be coming up in the near future to make a decision. Okay, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion?
Not at this time.
None at all in favor, closing this portion of the public meeting, say aye.
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 Unanimous, public hearing closed on Andrea Bartlett's application. And we'll move on to the next case. So Andrea, we will be out there, Mel and I, at about 9 o'clock on Saturday morning.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. See you then. Okay. The next case before the board, Angela Smith. Application to raise and keep farm animals at 145 Dyer Street, Gardner, Mass. Parcel ID number M-12-5-3, located in a single-family residential 1 zoning district, SFR1, is denied as it does not comply with Chapter 675, 410 of the City Code of Gardner. The table of uses states that your request that states that your use requested, line number 12, agricultural use, requires a special permit issued by the Gardner Zoning Board of Appeals. Do I have available Angela Smith, agent or attorney?
Yes, I'm here.
Wave to.
Oh.
You gotta wave so they turn it on.
Oh,
This is
I don't
Angela
wave.
Smith.
Your mic is on, Angela. We can hear you.
oh, okay. I didn't know how to wave.
Okay, Angela, this is a special permit. The members of the board have viewed this, but any interested parties and abutters, et cetera, that may be on have not had the opportunity to review your case. So if you could please state what you plan to do and address the 9 items required under a special permit.
Okay. I plan to raise, farm animals and keep them. And that includes raising rabbits. That includes raising chickens for eggs and for meat. That includes raising turkeys for meat. And we also would like to raise pigs if possible. And the reason why I want to raise the animals is because I have health conditions that require me to eat stuff that I know what's in them. Every time I go to the grocery store to go get food, I end up in the hospital because of pancreatitis, because I don't know what's in the food. So now I have to come to this position where I have to eat healthy. I no longer eat bread or carbs or anything like that. It's all just meat and protein and vegetables. And we grow a garden. So we use the manure from the animals to put into the garden as natural fertilizer instead of using artificial 10-10-10, which has lots of chemicals in it. And I don't want that into my body or into any of my family members. The animals are cleaned weekly, more if needed. And so the questions as addressed on I gotta bring up my paper. On number 1, it says the proposal shall be suitably located in the neighborhood in which it is proposed and or the entire city, and shall be compatible with neighborhood character, existing uses, and other uses permitted by right in the same district. I have the existing use on the property was a farm, and the boundary was and still is lined with barbed wire fence where animals had been kept. This property had been farmed for over 100 years that we found from previous owners. I also have, there is a barn on the property where animals had been kept and are kept currently. There is a chicken coop on the property where the chickens could go to get out of the elements and roost for the evening. These were all existing when the property was bought by my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. Number 2, the proposal shall provide convenient and safe vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site and in relation to adjacent streets of property and improvements. A, I have the letter A there. Animals are all fenced in, and it does comply with this, as this is for personal purposes, not a business. There will be no customers on the property. I do not plan to sell any of my food or eggs or any of that. If needed, I will donate any extras. Then number 3, the proposal shall provide adequate space for off-street parking, loading and unloading of vehicles and goods, products, materials, and equipment incidental to the normal operation of the establishment or use. Yes, this complies, as there is more than enough room in the driveway, and there is a 4-yard dumpster on the property. There is also an abandoned road that is still accessible in the event of an emergency. That's the old Sawyer Street right behind our property. The next one is the proposal shall provide adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities for the proper operation of the proposed use and disposal of sewage, refuge, or other waste products, and methods of drainage of surface water. All waste from the animals is composted. We have 2 composted areas. So that way we can turn them, use one year and use one the next year. We do not have water runoff into the street either. The proposal shall not constitute a nuisance due to air and water pollution, erosion, flood, noise, odor, dust, vibrations, lights, or visually offensive structures or site features. The property is tree lined. This dulls any noise made from the birds. The property is also on a hill. And as far as we know, there's been no complaints made in over 20 years. All manure is covered by lime, so the odor will not be an issue, and compost is put back into the vegetable garden. All animals and manure is kept away from the incoming water line. The proposal shall not be substantial inconvenience or hazard to abutters, vehicles, or pedestrians as determined by the SPGA. We do not believe it affects anyone, as the property sits on a hill and is lined with trees. The proposal shall be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this chapter. We believe that it is in harmony, as no complaints have been made. The proposal shall not have significant detrimental impact on city services, tax base, and employment opportunities, and we do not believe it does. And we donate any extra vegetables, eggs, or anything like that if anyone is in need.
Okay,
And number 9.
thank you very much, Angela. At this point, I just want to make a statement that sitting on this case tonight also, I'm just going to continue to be Mel Cornett, myself, and Mike Gary. Randy Hagelin is on as an unofficial member at this point, just listening into what's happening. Okay, Mr. Gary and Mr. Cornett, do you have any questions at this point?
I don't have any at this point.
Are there any existing animals on the property now?
Yes, I do have chickens, I do have ducks, I do have geese, I have rabbits, and I have 3 pigs.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, Mel?
No.
All right, I'm going to start with my protocol. I do have a number of questions, but I'll hold those till towards the end. Are there any representatives of the city to speak regarding this application? Any representatives of the city to speak regarding this application? Okay. Any abutters to the property who would like to speak in favor of this application? Any abutters to the property who would like to speak in favor of this application? I see a hand raised. Mr. Gene Butler, you state your name and address for the record, please. Mr. Butler.
Yes, I was just trying to unmute myself.
Okay.
My name is Gene Butler, live at 146 Dyer Street, Gardner. And I live, do you want me to continue?
Yes, please, you're speaking in favor of.
I'm speaking in favor of the property which lies directly across the street from mine at 145 Dyer. I have no problem whatsoever with how they are using their property. It really doesn't, I agree totally with what Angela said. As far as the property, you can't, with the tree lining and being up on the hill, it's almost like they're in a whole separate world that doesn't really affect me across the street whatsoever. So I don't like telling other people what to do with their property. I know there are rules and regulations, but I don't feel as though it'd be detrimental to me living directly across the street from them. Maybe one of the closest ones to them. So at this point, I do not have a problem whatsoever with them raising animals over there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Butler.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other abutters who would like to speak in favor of? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Callie Butler, 84 Dyer Street, and I'm in favor of it also. Good for you.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any additional abutters who would like to speak in favor of? Any additional abutters who would like to speak in favor of? Are there any abutters who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Any abutters who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, I can't see anything, and I don't know if anybody on the phone has comments, but apparently not.
I don't see
Okay,
anything, Mr. Chairman.
excuse me.
I don't see anything.
Okay, thank you. Mel? Mike, any comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Have you had any problems or issues with animals getting out of the enclosed area and wandering onto neighboring properties?
We did have 2 little pigs that we had for 2 days, and I had a latch on the gate that was not appropriate for them. Lesson learned. Now I've learned from a pig farm in Athol that you need to have a 2x4 to go across this gate to keep them in. So yes, I did have them, and I helped animal control get them after 2 weeks. The first one was caught, and the third one was caught. And any damage that was done to anybody's properties, I personally repaired. I'm still waiting for one lady to get a hold of me so I can go and fix and personally repair her property.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Andrew Smith, I do have a couple of questions here. I'm going to pose them. You stated that you do have animals. How many chickens do you have right now?
I think I have approximately 30 chickens.
30? Are you
Yes.
looking to expand that?
No. I do not look to expand. I think 30 is more than enough. As you know, every chicken lays at least 1 egg a day.
Okay. How many ducks do you have?
I think I have 10 now. I had a few that were older that passed in the last couple months. They were about 11 years old.
Okay. How many turkeys do you have or plan to have?
I do 25 every year.
Okay. How many rabbits do you have or plan to have?
I currently have 15 rabbits. And I raise the babies and I bring them to a lady in Athol, and she dresses them out for me. And then I bring the meat home and put it in my freezer.
Okay, so you roughly have about 15 rabbits on site all the time.
Yes, sir.
How many geese do you have?
I have 4. I had to think about that. No, sorry, 5.
Okay. And you have 3 pigs?
Yes, I have a large sow and 2 little pigs. The little pigs, my 2 kids take care of because those are the ones I had gotten out, and they are now adjusted to us. Like I said, we only had them for 2 days when they had gotten out, but now they come when you shake a bucket of food or you bring scraps or anything, they come right to you. They're like little babies. And then I have my big pig. Her name is Penelope.
Okay, how large does the sow get, and how large will the smaller ones get?
The smaller ones will only get to about 100 pounds, and the big one will get 400 to 600.
400 to 600?
Yes, she's a Lancashire, Yorkshire, and Hampshire landrace.
Okay, thank you. Which of the above animals you have, I'm gonna call have a form of housing, coops, pens, etc.?
The chickens have a coop that we have expanded on. And I'm not sure the size. I didn't realize I was supposed to measure the dimension of that. We are expanding their outdoor pen. It is pretty large right now. The ducks and the geese have a pond that they can swim in. And it has a double filter system on it. And the rabbits are all kept in 24 by 36 by 36 cages.
Okay.
And we have, right now we have an 8x8 pen the pig is staying in inside the barn. The rabbits stay in the barn as well.
Right. So this is sort of my adjunct to my first question. How many of each of the above do you plan to have in the future?
I don't plan to have any more than what I have.
Okay, I'll just no more. Just bear-
Along those lines, do you plan on adding any different kind of animals?
I don't plan on doing any other different kind of animals.
Okay.
Okay, thank
No
you.
goats, no sheep, no cows, no horses, none of that. I don't plan on expanding on any of it.
Okay, so I think Mr. Gary asked if any of the animals or the pigs escaped or roam freely, and your answer was yes for a couple of days.
A couple of weeks.
For a week?
Yeah, they were out for a couple of weeks, and I was persistent in helping animal control catch them.
Okay. Thank you.
I even caught one myself.
All right, I think you touched a little this, but I was probably noting something. What type of fencing do you currently have, either around their coops, their pens, or the yard?
We have pallet fence. We put a bunch of pallets around.
Chain link around that barrel.
What?
They have chain link around the.
And the chickens have chain link around their pen. The turkeys will have chain link as well.
Okay, just let me write that down.
I did have a net over the chicken pen, but it collapsed because of the heavy wet snow, so I'm going to be repairing that.
Okay. Who owns the abandoned road?
Half of us do, half of my in-laws do, and half the neighbor above me.
Okay. Are there any other farm type animals in the neighborhood that the
Yes,
neighbors may
down
have?
on Sawyer Street. Down on Sawyer Street, there's lots of farm type animals. One lady has heritage turkeys and a big dog pen. Another lady I saw has a whole bunch of ducks and chickens all rocking all over her yard, free ranging. And further down, they have a horse.
Okay. Probably when we're gonna come out and do a site visit, so I'll probably ask that question again, so you can sort of point it out and give me a little more info. How do you protect runoff from your property onto the abutters, to the stream, etc.?
There's none.
There is none. We don't have a stream near us, and we don't get any runoff down there.
Okay, and you have nothing that goes towards the stream?
Nope.
No, nothing.
Okay. Well, okay, let's see.
Note that the property is rock walled.
Yes, my father-in-law just mentioned to me that the property is rock walled. Yeah, it's got a stone wall all around the property.
All right, this is, you call this a personal farm.
Yes.
Are you aware that if farms are allowed or not allowed in a single family residential one zone?
I was not aware. My in-laws, when they bought the property, it was a selling point that it was agriculturally zoned. So they thought that they were zoned, and they've had animals here before.
For 20
and
years.
for years, for the last 20 years anyway. And they've had people come out and nothing was ever said.
Okay. I have this, I really have two more questions. I'm gonna hold my number 11 to last. My next to last is, do any of the farm animals noted above have regular veterinarian checkups, visits, inoculations, etc.? And if they are, does the veterinarian come on site, or do you have to transport animals to the vet?
No, I do not have the vet care for the rabbits. And I do not do the vet care, have the vet care for the chickens. If they are sick, I do, you know, I go on Google and I also ask other farmers about it. And if I need to, I will call the state to come in and, you know, test the chickens if need be.
How do you handle the pigs?
The pig, I handle her with a bucket of grain, and we have a couple of people with, oh,
There's several people talking at once and it's not really clear what they're saying. So just,
okay. This is the first time I'm gonna have a sow, so I will be calling a vet.
okay. So I'm aware of another area that has some pigs and they need medical care or checkups periodically. They're generally brought to the vet. How do you plan to move the sow if she's going to be 400 to 600 pounds?
With a trailer.
Okay,
And a truck. I have a Dodge Ram 1500 pickup truck.
okay, thank you. Now, my last question. You have support letters that the pigs are very beneficial to the health and emotional support for several people. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is my question. If you are planning to process these animals for food, what level of impact will this have on their diagnosis?
The current animals that we have, the current pigs, they will not be processed. They will live their life.
Okay, thank you. That's why I wanted clarification. Okay, that's the extent of my questions at this point. I'll open it up to my two members, Mel and Mike. If you-
Yeah, I have one, seeing as we've talked about chickens. Do you have roosters?
I do have roosters. If I need to, I can do the method called a crow collar, which is something that you put around so they can't crow.
How many do you have?
I have 3.
Okay.
Okay. Mel, anything?
No, I'm good for now. I'm just certainly want to see a site visit.
Okay, so Ms. Smith, we're going to Ms. Bartlett's house at 9 o'clock. That will probably take us, I'm gonna give us a little room to a half an hour. Would 9:30 to 9:45 be a good time for us to come out to visit your property?
Yes, that should be fine.
That will be fine. Is that, oh, Mike, you're the one, you might have an issue, right?
I'm going to try to work around it.
Okay, Mel, you okay for that?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay, so Rachel, I'll ask you to send a notice out to the 5 of us, you know, if the other alternates want to come along, notifying what the times are, et cetera. And
Absolutely.
you can notify also the applicants, Ms. Smith and Andrew Bartlett, that will be there, so everybody will be on the same page.
Absolutely.
Okay. So any other questions, comments, et cetera, right at this point in time? I'm opening the floor. I have nothing. So what I would like to do is hear a motion to continue this case till February, to our February hearing. What date will that be, Rachel, in the February?
16.
Okay. And we'll pick it up at that time. We will go to the viewing this Saturday. And so no further questions. Do I hear a motion to continue this case to the February meeting?
Ray, before we do that, can I ask one more question?
Yes, sir.
Have you had any issues with vermin infiltrating your areas?
No.
I have 3 wonderful cats. And I haven't had an issue with anything bigger.
Okay.
Okay. All right, does that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, it does indeed.
Okay, thank you. So I ask again, do I hear a motion to continue this to next month, February?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Okay. Angela Smith, this will be, your case will be continued to the February hearing. But we will be out there Saturday, somewhere between 9:30 and 9:45 to view the property and what's happening. We may have more questions when we're there. I'll make this statement. Since we'll be viewing the property, abutters or interested parties may want to view the property also. That decision will be up to the owner of the property. They do not have to allow other members, either abutters or interested parties, to be on the property. If they choose to do so, then they give permission and that's okay. But I just want to make that very clear, because at times, sometimes abutters figure they can do that, but they will need permission to enter the property by the owners. Okay, and Angela Smith, are you clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any further? Anything, Mike?
No,
Mel?
nothing.
No, nothing.
Okay, Mr. Jean, do you have any questions or comments at this point? I gotta find you.
Not at this point, Mr. Chairman.
There it is, my cursor was stuck, I couldn't move it. Okay, Rachel, do we need to vote on the minutes?
Yes. And Attorney Christine Tree is actually present too.
That's right, I did see her and I missed her up front, so, all right, so at this point, we're gonna move on to the next case. And I'll call it a case at this point. It's attorney Christine True was representing an applicant for a property on 11 Wright Street. And there came an issue with the recording documents and the proper numbering, et cetera. And attorney True asked to come before the board just to explain what happened and state what the corrective action is. So attorney True, are you still there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I was gonna put you on first. I didn't see you and we got rolling.
It's okay. You're
Okay.
very timely with the meetings. It's good to keep it moving.
Okay, so would you please state what happened and what has transpired?
Very briefly, we submitted an application requesting a special permit for the property at 11 Wright Street and listed the book and page number of the deed as book 62408, page 160. In fact, the correct reference is book 62408, page 159. Page 159 is the electronic recording cover page, and the actual deed starts on page 160. The Registry of Deeds has refused to record the special permit without this correction as a result. I was also, when I initially contacted the building department, uncertain of the correct procedure of this, just so that the board is certain of its authority. I'm going to refer you and quote a case called Board of Selectmen of Stockbridge v. Monument Inn. The reference is 8 Mass Appeals Court 158. It's a 1979 case. And it says the law is clear that the board has the inherent power, without holding a further public hearing, to correct an inadvertent or clerical error in its decision, so that the record reflects its true intention, so long as the correction does not constitute a reversal of a conscious decision or grant different relief. So I'd ask that the board treat this as a clerical error and amend the special permit that has been filed with the clerk. It's my understanding that this does not require an additional appeal period because it's not a different decision.
Okay. So I guess after all of that, what's the quickest way we can do this and how to move it forward? Because I have no documentation in front of me to get this done. And I think, you know, the board would work very clearly because this was probably, I'll call it a clerical or technical error, to just change that, in my opinion. And I'll ask my other members for theirs, but would not alter the decision that this board made. That's just I call it clerical error. It does not impact the granting of the special permit or whatever, or variance, whatever we did grant at that point in time. The facts remain the same. So Mike, sitting on that case, Mr. Garrett,
Yeah.
you were on that case, 11 Wright Street?
I was.
Okay, do you see any inherent problem of moving forward to make, do an approval to get the?
Nope, I don't have an issue with it at all.
Okay. Randy, you were on the case?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman, yes.
Okay, do
I
you
also have no, I have
nothing?
no problem with taking a vote to amend that decision to correct the clerical error.
Okay, so Attorney True, if we just take a vote here and then Rachel can type up a document and then needs to be signed, we can sign that for you.
Thank you. That would be much appreciated.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve
Mr. Chairman,
the change? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think it needs to be corrected on the original decision and the whole decision again provided to Attorney Tree, not just a letter saying that we voted to make that correct, Attorney? Is that how you?
So, Mr. Chair, it's of course preferable if I get this same document with the correction on it that's been filed with the clerk. If the board wants to append something noting that it amended the decision to reflect the correct book and page number, that's also acceptable as long as that correct reference is given to the Registry of Deeds.
Okay, what kind of timeline do you have here?
There was a scheduled closing for this Friday. This is an issue that is my fault. So if we need to work to reschedule that closing, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, I just want to try to make it as easy and quick. I mean, if we take a vote tonight to do that, but we need to see the document, would that be acceptable?
Yes. Yes.
Or would you prefer to extend it out, you know, a week or something like that?
So what I will do is work to extend the closing date a week to the following Friday, and that will allow the board time to examine and sign the document properly.
Okay, I do not think, because it's not going to be a public hearing, I would assume it's going to be more of just a quick amendment meeting, that we would not need to publish this in the paper and have any wait time, you know, of 30 days, 20 days, anything like that.
The decision, the case law that I just read to you indicates that no further public hearing is required, which means that no publication is required.
Okay, so I think we could schedule a time probably this coming week to have a quick meeting of the 3 members. Rachel, could you set up a Zoom for quick that we could approve it? Move forward?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, is there any reason why we can't do that tonight? Just make a motion to change the clerical error, the recording page from 160 to 159. And then Rachel can make that change, email it to us all tomorrow. And as long as it's made, I'm good with that. I mean, if you think that would be the cleanest, I think, and easiest way of dealing with it. I recognize the necessity and the need to kind of act upon this. And Attorney Tree has, been gracious with us in the past. So that would be my recommendation: is we just make a motion to amend the.
I guess, Attorney Tree, is that acceptable? If we do it as a recorded vote tonight, and then we'll get the documents and get them signed, and then Rachel can move them on to you.
Yes, Mr. Chair. That's
Okay.
acceptable, and I thank the board members for it.
Okay, so Randy, you want to restate your motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to amend the original decision for 11 Wright Street, which is dated, I don't know, we'll have to fill in the date, voted on by the board, to correct a clerical error in the stating of the property's recording book and page, specifically the page and changing the page from 160 to 159. And I make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'd just like to add, Randy, to that this vote this change does not impact the decision of the board on that case at all. This is strictly a clerical error.
Just corrects a clerical error. And again, yeah, you're right. It makes no changes at all to the decision other than remedying the clerical error.
I'll
Do I
second
hear-
that.
Okay, any further discussion? None. Then all in favor of that
Aye.
clerical error being changed to Mr. Eglin?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous approval. Rachel will move forward and she'll work with you, Attorney Tree, to get this corrected.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank the board members again. I look forward to seeing you next month with a project where I have checked the book and page number about 4 times before submission.
One more time. Remember, if you're building something, measure, measure, measure.
You are very right, Mr. Chair. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, you too. Okay,
Thank you,
then.
Attorney Tree.
We can actually close this the public meeting tonight. So I move to close tonight's public meeting. And then actually.
You
we can go
this
into-
decision minutes.
You want to do
Vote
that
on the, sure, let's vote on the decision. Yeah.
Okay. Then you've all had an opportunity to read the minutes, submit any corrections. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the December meeting?
So moved.
So moved, seconded.
Okay, any further discussion? None? Then all in favor, say aye. Hand up.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No opposition? Minutes approved. And now I
Thank
move to. Did you say something, Rachel?
I said, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so I'll just move to close tonight's public hearing of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we know what's scheduled for February, and we know where we have to be on Saturday. So anything else?
Nope.
Okay, we're all in favor of closing the meeting tonight?
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. Meeting closed. And before you go off, Rachel, I have a technical question to